Hello, my name is Estrella Garcia, and I decided to do my final on the movie Parasite. So, Bong Joon-ho, on the left here, directed Parasite, a 2019 South Korean film about social class inequality between the poor Kims who manipulate their way into employment at the home of the wealthy Parks. The film is an Oscar Academy winner of 3 awards, including Best Picture, Best Directing, and Writing. So before we get into the deeper meaning behind the film, I wanted to do a quick summary on the explicit meaning. So the film starts off with the Kims in their basement home as they struggle to find work. Ki-woo, the son, struggles to find the drive to succeed in life. While intelligent, he has failed his college entrance exams 4 years in a row. His sister, Ki-jung, has had to stop taking classes because she cannot afford them. Their parents, Chung-suk and Ki-woo, are out of jobs and have to find little ways of making money. The family is given a chance for a job when Ki-woo's friend Min visits the family and brings them a gift of a rock that is supposedly going to give them wealth. Min tells Ki-woo that he is leaving abroad and will leave behind a tutoring job that he would like to recommend Ki-woo for. This is when we meet the Parks. The Parks live in a wealthy home residing with Yeon Kyo, the mom, Dong Ik, the dad, Da Hye, the older sister, and Da Sung, the little brother. They also have the house's original housekeeper, Moon Gwang, which we'll meet later. After Kyo is hired under a fake narrative of a top university student under the name Kevin, the family soon finds a way to manipulate and infiltrate the home and are all hired by the Parks under different names and different backstories. A series of decisions the Kims and Parks make soon do lead to a tragic end. The film portrays what lengths the impoverished may go to find better opportunities and the carelessness of the wealthy. The film offers many themes to explore the social classes in South Korea, but for this presentation we will be focusing on class struggle. This will include how the poor and the wealthy struggle in their own ways and ultimately need each other to survive. We can see the saturated color tones. The clothes the children wear are a lot more muted. The only color is really the mixed matched accessories in the background that you can see cluttered on the bathroom walls, and you can even see all the tiles that are broken in the back, and it's a lot different in color and vibrancy than you would see in the Parks house. The Parks need the labor of the working class, the Kims, to survive. Dong-ki needs a driver to take him and his wife everywhere, and he even complains that his driver must follow a rule of not crossing the line. He mentions this several times in the movie, and that gets Kyo a bit angry at times, but he doesn't show it. Yeon Kyo needs someone to do the housework because according to her husband, she is not good at it. They relied on help even before the Kim family, and we can tell because as soon as they were firing their past workers, they immediately wanted to hire somebody new that they didn't even know but were recommended to them by the Kims without knowing. So I wanted to come back and talk about Moon Gwang and her husband. So Moon Gwang was the previous housekeeper of the original house owner and the Parks until she was fired and replaced by Chung-suk. Now, she had come back to the house after being fired during the heavy rainfall while the Parks were out camping. This was a large surprise, and an even more shocking surprise when she revealed her husband had been living in the basement. She had revealed that they had used loan sharks and had gone into debt, which is the reason why she was keeping him there in the first place. This was a smaller detail in the film that I thought was not glossed over but not mentioned as much. A lot of the working class relies on loans today, especially for college students, in order to go to school or university, especially because of how high prices are nowadays, a lot of working class relies on these loans. And I thought that this reason was why they represented the working class. Now, her reappearance and her husband's appearance caused suspense throughout the film. In chapter 4, page 140, there was a quote that was said, "Suspense is the anxiety brought on by a partial uncertainty. We feel compelled to warn and protect the characters who don't. In this case, for me, the Kims." So the scene we just watched was the flood scene from the heavy rain that occurred while the Parks were camping and during the event of the escape of the Parks house. Now, in this slide, I want to talk about the different perspectives of that flood. So, in this little picture that I have here on my right is two different pictures. So the bottom was one of the scenes that we saw in the flood scene in the video. This was Ki-woo and his dad over here in the flood trying to grab as many things as they could. And on top is the scene in the morning after the Parks had called the Kims, every single one of them, needing their assistance for Da-sung's party. So, unfortunately, there was no clip that I could grab from the morning after, but in this following clip, following the next day, they were in the car, and Hyun Kyo was on the phone with her friends saying that the sky was so blue and had no pollution thanks to all the rain yesterday. And we can see Mr. Kim's face looking defeated and upset because for the Parks it was no big deal. But for the Kims, it ruined everything. Now here we are in the third stage of the narrative. And like our textbook mentions, our protagonists must face a seemingly insurmountable obstacle, and our story must reach a turning point. This was on page 128 of chapter 4. So we see that the Kims have now had to reface the reality and have unfortunately realized that no matter their efforts to attain a higher status in society, the world seems to just push them back down. And even Mr. Kim changes his personality, as we can see in the following scenes. Now, the smell is a reoccurring symbol throughout the film, and the Kims seem to have this, what Dong-ki calls as the subway smell. This creates anger and an insecurity for Ki-woo, and it ends up being the breaking point for him at the end of the film. This scene right here of Dong-ik covering his nose in disgust was as he was grabbing the keys to his car from under the dead body of Moon Gwang's husband. Now, you can take this scene in many different perspectives, but for me, while watching this scene, I felt a lot of anger towards the Parks. Now, his son Da-sung had fainted, and they were worried about taking him to the hospital as Mr. Kim was lying, trying to put pressure on the knife wound of his daughter, who was bleeding out. The rest of his family in the scene is seemingly bleeding out and in danger, and the only thing that he notices is how Dong-ik grabs his nose in disgust of that smell, grabs the keys, and moves to go away to take his fainted son to the hospital. This scene was, like I said, the breaking point for Mr. Kim. He grabs a knife and stabs Dong-ki, and it is not certain if he was killed in the movie, but this causes his wife to faint as well. The theme of class struggles portrayed in the film showed how both lower and rich classes need each other. This movie had me staring at my screen for a while I was watching for the first time. The intense violence in the climax was a surprise and really heartbreaking to watch. While some of us may have grown up with every opportunity, others had to manage and find ways to succeed on their own. The difference in class struggles throughout this movie really put into perspective how much more the impoverished struggle in life. Society creates so many different obstacles for them, and a lot of us just sweep it under the rug seemingly because it does not affect us. I think this film really has the audience thinking, and I hope it did create more awareness. Thank you for listening.